Hello friends and welcome back to Biosphereflora. Today in this video I am going to talk to you about plant care #2. In this second episode of plant care I am going to talk about the brown tips, why the leaves turns their tip into the brown. Browning of tips is nowadays a very common problem seen in our house plants, whether it be outdoor plant or an indoor one. The leaf itself shows the sign of the browning of tip. In the previous video I have talked about the yellowing of leaves unintentionally. I will give the link below. Without wasting much time, I am going to talk about the major problems regarding the brown tips in this video with full care. This plant is the Chinese evergreen or the Aglaonema variety. This plant is famous for its foliage of the variegation pattern, but due to some reasons they have become the browning of tips problem. The first problem which I have faced due to this browning is that the underwatering problem. There are actually the three main problems which comes under the underwatering while watering by the plant parents. The first reason is that growing the weeds. You should always remember to pluck out those unwanted weeds which are growing in the pots. Growing weeds can cover the full soil and will block the water to goes down fully through the roots, which might otherwise cause the water problem in the leaves and will turn the leaves into the brown tips. The next problem is that don't use the clayey soil or the hard soil, which might block the water flow. And the last problem comes in the underwatering is that don't water them very less. Water them as sufficient as per need of the plant. While watering your plants, you must always check the soil condition before watering. This will help to get rid of browning of tips. The next problem which we frequently face is that the lack of watering or the overwatering, which I have talked in my previous video. There is a trick behind it is that put your finger an inch or a half inch deep and analyze the soil whether it's dry or moist. Accordingly water them. In the areca palm you can clearly see that the soil is dry one. This is vary according to your plants whether they are indoor or the outdoor. The water requirements vary. Remember, always while watering your plants, water them thoroughly until you find that the water droplets coming out from the bottom. Water droplets from the bottom coming is a well indication that your plant is a healthy one and the well draining soil, which helps the root to get fully the water requirement. The water problem is one of the major problems regarding the plant problems, such as the burning of leaves, browning of tips, blackening of leaves, sogginess or yellowing of leaves, etc. So water plays a key role in every house plants. The next problem is the root bound problem. The root bound is frequently seen in those plants which are potted in the small pots for several years. The root bound problem might turn the roots to suffocate and leads the problem of browning of tips. So you should always remember that you should repot your plants as per the requirement. Whenever you find that the roots are coming out from the bottom of your pot's holes or it's seeing on the upper layers of the soil, then it indicates that it needs to be repotted immediately. Here in this Syngonium plant I am going to repot it into an inch bigger pot. I have pruned just the bigger roots and clearing the soil from the bottom. This will help the plant to spread the new roots around the new soil and will aerate the soil so that the roots can grow well in condition. Don't remove the whole soil from the plant's roots. It might cause a plant to shock and finally leads to the death of the plant. To ensure that the plant doesn't have any browning of tips, you should repot them once in a year. This philodendron plant also turn their leaves tips to the brown. This is the reason behind this plant is neither the underwatering or overwatering or the root bound situation, but there is a reason of the well draining soil. My soil condition is not too well draining as because it take very much longer time to drain out the water, so it might be the soil problem as because they are not well drained and porous one, which might finally cause the suffocation of the roots underneath the plant. I have recently shifted this philodendron plant into a well-drained porous soil by mixing coco peat and sand ratio. Now the newer leaves which are arising are not turning their tips to be brown or a yellow one. So a well-draining soil mixture and a porous one will help the plant to penetrate the newer roots and will not suffocate the roots in future, and will help the plant to grow in a better way and get rid of the browning of tips. Now the next plant of Dracaena has been observed the browning of tips. Although the soil was a well-draining and porous one, but the tips has turned brown. The reason behind is that they are actually the low light plants or the medium light plants, but I have kept them in outdoors under the sun. The harsh and the direct sunlight has burned their tips to the brown. Here in this case of Dracaena, the browning of tips is actually the burning of tips, which has caused due to the direct and harsh sunlight. So to avoid them, keep your house plants like philodendron, Dracaena or any pothos under the filtered or the partial light where it doesn't receive the harsh or the direct ones. So here in this case, the light plays a very important role in the browning of tips or the yellowing of tips. Sometimes we observe that the browning of tips is also caused by the lack of fertilizer or the excess amount of fertilizer, which might harm indirectly to the plants by turning their leaves brown. So to avoid them, fertilize your every plant once a month or twice a month as per requirement. If you like this video, please give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to get the upcoming latest videos. Do follow me on Instagram where I post on the recent plant photos.